What's good, hexagons and pulsicans? It's your boy OCG back with another one. But before we proceed with the recording, I would like to make my audience aware of something. I'm gonna let the secret out the bag, because a lot of people don't know about this. It's very simple. Icosa is the move. Okay? Icosa is the move. Not financial advice. I repeat, not financial advice. But Icosa is the move. I know you see Icosa going crazy on the Pulsechain side and the Ethereum side, but this is just the beginning. Imagine the bull run. When the bull run comes, this thing is going to take off. Icosa and Hedron. But I lean mostly towards Icosa. Now, I understand a lot of people seem to find Icosa very complex, and some people tend to FUD a project when they don't understand it. Now, that's not the way to go. This is how you lose out on wealth and become a coulda, woulda, shoulda. All you have to do is educate yourself or be around people that know more than you. Be around also spaces like these videos that I'm putting out. Just listen. You don't want to miss out on an opportunity just because you couldn't do a little research in your due diligence. Look at the people that missed out on Bitcoin. Some of them was super early, but all they did was FUD because they didn't understand it. Well, if you proceed to watch the recording after this, there's a guy that elaborate more on what Icosa is and the new update that's coming for Icosa. Now, I know a lot of you guys are like, what is this chart? Well, a well-respected nerd with the gigabrains from the Hex, Hedron, and Icosa community made this chart. And as you can see, Icosa is blue and Hedron is green. So if Hex goes to $1, Hedron goes to 0.0017 and Icosa goes to $45.88. The same if Hex goes to $3, Hedron goes to 0.0052 and Icosa goes to $137.63. And the reason why this occurs is because how Icosa and Hedron was created.
You will have a diminishing 10x multiplier. So for example, if you have a 10x multiplier a hex stake, you have a Hedron 10x multiplier attached to it. Every time you mint, it will take it down 1x. So it will, like, if you have a 10x, you decide to mint Hedron, boom, you don't have 10x anymore. Now you only have a 9x. And the next time you mint, you're going to have an 8x. And just every single time you decide to mint Hedron, the x's will go down, 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 down until there's no more left. And the reason why I find that very, very interesting is because if the founder of Icosa Hedron is asking such a question, whether or not he's going to implement this type of change, just the very idea that he's thinking in these terms are, that is a very bullish case for Hedron. And I think that currently all the attention is on Icosa, and I'm an Icosa investor. Like, I have very, very big hopes and dreams for Icosa. I believe it will be very big in the future. But that being said, I think a lot of people are overlooking the Hedron aspect, and the indication for why it would be an overlooked asset is because we have this negative idea attached to it that it has like these old hex stakers that can just mint it for free constantly. But let me see if I can find a poll real quick, so anyone who haven't seen it, it would spark a new idea in your mind of what Hedron could become in the future.
I was thinking as well, I was like, imagine if you just, instead of, because it's restrictive, right? If you mint once and you have less, that's more restrictive than the last system. But imagine you just instead give people that don't mint until the end a bonus. It would be the same mathematically, but it's not making it more restrictive. You see what I'm saying? It's just making it better for people who don't mint, which is the same math anyway. So that's another thing. Like when he said that, that's what I thought about,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is very bullish. And currently the E-Hedron and P-Hedron price, the last time I checked, are very, very close, like very close, literally almost parity. And it's funny, leading up to the Icosa pump, we actually saw E-Hedron outperform P-Hedron. They've been very, very close in the range. Currently, P-Hedron is 5% more expensive than E-Hedron. Ideally, when you see a complete equalization in price between these two assets, I would say buy the P version and let that dictate the potential price movement upwards for the E version, or we can just buy them both at the same time, obviously. But if there's only like a 2-3% difference, it's probably better to just buy the P version. I don't know, even though they're going to be 1-to-1. But if you're looking at the difference between the Icosa and Icosa, currently the difference does not make sense. Like, I do understand that there's a lot of people who spent their money just based strictly on the influence of the influential people on Twitter talking about it. But we did close the gap. Like, I think 2 days ago, Icosa was twice the price of Icosa, but currently Icosa is only like 20% more expensive, 23%. So it's a great improvement that we had so far. And one of the main reasons for why I personally began saying that it's important to not allow such a big gap is because it's exploitable. And why it's exploitable is because people who understand the upcoming change and the one-to-one swap ratios, they could fool the people who have no idea what they're buying. And what this does is that it makes older players gain an even bigger advantage in the system. And we don't want that. Anticipate the new announcement coming out with testnet, because you know there's going to be a 1-for-1 trading ratio. So you have all these uninformed buyers buy up the P version up. And right before everybody understands what is actually going on, you just swap at a very favorable ratio from the P to the E version. And then suddenly you just doubled your bag. And I don't think that type of, I don't think that it's just it's a thing that is easily overlooked. And I don't even know if people understood what I just said, but it's not good that there is a big gap. Let the gap between these two assets be, okay, 20%, that's fine. But one should not be costing twice the price than the other. Currently, you could argue that Icosa is more valuable because, first of all, you have lower swap fees natively, but there is no yield. So why would you stake? You can stake for the T points, but logically speaking, and to be fair, you just want to be accumulating units. Okay. And then once it's more clarified what is going on, then you can make the decision to stake. But, an honest suggestion would just be to accumulate units right now and buy the cheaper version instead of paying more for the more expensive one.
Covered a lot of ground there. I never even got to talk about the 10% or the 10x getting diluted over time. I kind of wanted to touch on that.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I'm done talking. I've talked a lot today, but I think we went over some pretty interesting things. Like, reading through those notes, it's very difficult to understand what it means, especially for people who just come into the room. But I personally learned some things, bouncing ideas off everybody in this room. So yeah, you can take over, Java. What were your thoughts?
Oh, I don't want to take over. I just want to touch on that poll. It's very simplified, and I have questions like, would that affect the 10x bonus for I guess so. It's only if you mint, correct? Like, it wouldn't affect it. I guess when you borrow, you don't get a bonus. You borrow anyway, so I
think this one, let's see here. The upgrade I'm working on, thinking about the Hedron launch bonuses. What if they carry over? You keep the 10x, but each time you mint, it decreases. So I think it's interesting that he says, what if they carry over? What if they carry over? Why would you say what if, as if it's not a given? Like, people who have 10x bonuses, they should like expect it not to be carried over on. Like, just a natural perspective, I would just expect it to be carried over. But he says, what if they carry over? You keep the 10x, but each time you mint, it decreases. So this specific 10x bonus is directly about the launch bonuses. It has nothing to do with the Hedron 10x leverage.
So my thought on that is, this is kind of like a social experiment, right? Because like, you're not forced to migrate at all. It's really up to the market whether they want to migrate or not, and if it would be beneficial, right? Like, if you think the market will mostly move over, then you're not going to want to be left behind not migrating yourself, right? You'll possibly have useless coins, or at least price will probably not perform at all with no auctions and no other things, right? With the old version. So like, it makes sense if you think market will go over, that you go with the crowd. But if there was something, like lots of benefits, right? There's like added benefits here and there, but like if one benefit got taken away, I guess that's the thing there. Like, he could just take those bonuses away if he wanted to. It's a different version altogether, and it would be up to the market to decide.
But if the market is low, the liquidity will be low. And if the liquidity is low, it doesn't really matter how much you have if you can't cash it out. So
right.
We could see the old system, slowly have like extremely little activity to barely any activity. And the liquidity, if there is none of that, if the majority of the attention will shift over to the new thing, it's just going to be, a phased out old protocol.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, EIPs, that change things. I'm sure the miners were pretty pissed off about, going to proof of stake. But, people get over it, and, evolution, I guess, with everything. That's just how it goes.
But yeah, definitely good talk, good brainstorming. I hope we get some more updates coming in soon. But the last thing I'd say is just one-to-one version swap. Purchase the cheaper version. There is no reason to buy the more expensive one and become a victim to people doing favorable ratio swaps on your head, because all the new people who came in, they just injected cash into the more expensive version, and the people who were already buying prior, they just swapped it into the cheaper version, so they got more coins. And unit maximization should be at the forefront. Like, get as many units as possible, and because the contract will not care about the price. Like Icosa Hedron V2, when you go in to swap your liquid coins, it's just going to be looking, okay, this one is one Hedron and the other one is one Hedron. It doesn't care if the P version is worth 10 times more in dollar terms. It will just scan like, okay, one Hedron is one Hedron, one Icosa is one Icosa. So I've been spamming the chat for the past couple of days with the contract addresses, just so people understand. And it is heavily advisable that when you use Pulsechain, just use Piteous to do your swaps when it comes to Hedron and Icosa.
I mean, look at the ETH bros. They're not stupid. They know that, they've moved from AVAX to Solana. They move around too. They'll come to Pulsechain.
Hey, you guys got me thinking. I just started thinking about this stuff. So essentially, I'm going to use round numbers. Just throw it out there and see what you guys think. I'm no well, but I'm just using some round numbers. So say you had 1% of the E side of Icosa system, and you had 1% on the other side. Now that it merges together, instead of having that double, you still only have 1% of the system. You see what I'm saying?
Thank goodness I sold one of my sides.
Yeah, because you're doubling the supply, but you're merging the two. So you really, in essence, only still have 1%. Whereas when it's split before, you had 1% on the E side, 1% on the P side.
Yeah, but then you still only had 1% on either side. So it's an invariable. Plus, both sides are now worth the opposing side in yield, or in utility, should I say. So in the event,
say plus we get the bonus now too. So
yeah. And so like in this scenario where, let's say the E side goes to 0 or down 90%, well, you can go buy the E side and take it to the P side and earn P assets which didn't go down 90%, which means it likely won't. It's a kind of reinforcing thing, because it's the same system. So like in the event now where we're like, well, why would we pay less for the same thing? Imagine in a scenario where there's literally auctions happening in 20 minutes that you want to participate in, and the one's cheaper. Like, why? There would be even more of an incentive to do it then, So it's like, yeah. It's like the analogy would be, it's like the whole system is the same now, and you have 1% of the entire system. Yeah, you're right. Like, there's no actual gain other than the utility that you gain, And then if you buy the cheaper one now, you have more utility for less bang for your buck. Like, you have more bang for your buck. Sorry, you paid less for the same as the same utility. So, but yeah, it's an interesting way to look at it, obviously, because there's nothing to compare it to as well.
Well,
I'm still happy with it, and I'm going to go ahead and migrate over, of course. But I was just I hadn't thought about this for months, and you guys just got me thinking this morning. I was like, hey, wait a minute.
Wait, you might be fine though. Actually, I was just thinking about your situation, and you're gonna get 1 for 1 of each token. Wouldn't you just have more tokens then? So if you have tokens on the other side, the tokens on the other side, you're just gonna get 1 for each token, right?
Right, but then the supply doubles. So it's essentially the same thing. It's just the supply doubles, and it only affects your percentage of the whole, I guess.
You're going to have more tokens comparative to the others who sold one side. So you're going to have more tokens than the ones who sold on one side, versus if there were to remain 2, you'd be playing the same game.
And then also earlier, somebody was talking about the Watsa bonuses, but didn't Alex seed the Watsas to make up for the bonus? So I don't think we'll be getting any additional bonus on Watsas. What do you guys think?
No, so the copy of the bonus that everyone else gets will now also go to Watsa. So the fixed Staker League bonus will also Watsa result in it. Yeah, so Watsa benefits from that as well.
So yeah, Watsa holders came out on that one ahead. That's cool.
Mm-hmm. when we say, Alex, what we should be saying when things like that happen is the SA seeded it. We don't know
Right,
who
correct.
controls
That's
that.
true. Right. Thank you.
Yeah, because there could be this scenario as well. Pulse hexameter. It's a mouthful. But yeah, there could be a scenario where, you know, people choose they want to go over on Ethereum because they want to play the counterplay and they think, oh my God, all these HSIs on the buyback are going to be all over on Ethereum. So, you know, people migrate to the Ethereum assets. But either way, Ethereum, Pulsechain, doesn't matter, same asset really, you know, even though there's 4, it's like conceptually there's 2, if you like, from the contract's point of view. Because so yeah, it's like you described, you still have the same of the all intrinsically with more utility. Because, you know, people might, you know, I'm going to just migrate over from all my P assets on Ethereum and just provide a bunch of liquidity and make money off all these fees. You know, there's a subset of people that'll do very specific actions for certain reasons, maybe, you know. Even for them, if the Pulsechain side was cheaper and they were going to migrate over to like, it's the same thing, right? Just do the same in reverse. And so
And the real winner is we won't have to pay the Ethereum gas fee once we do migrate over. So that's it's a win-win, definitely.
It's been a while, but I think he has some pretty quality stuff. So when you know, when the new Icosa Hedron V2 comes out, I think he would probably make an upgrade and you know, make an accommodation for how the new system will work. You know, his own vision and version of that of the auctions. He's probably going to integrate that into his own thing.
the ceiling price is essentially for Hedron. Once you can once the amount you can borrow from it exceeds the cost of you creating a 1 hex stake 5555. Once you can borrow more Hedron from that hex stake than it's worth to create it, that is the ceiling, which is now going to change as well in V2 because of leveraged borrowing. So the ceiling will be 10 times closer to 10 times the factor it was before, you know, because essentially what it's saying is, hey, if I make a hex stake right now, HMI, and borrow against it instantly, if I can borrow $110, but it only cost me $100 worth of hex to make it, there's an arbitrage there. So the ceiling is the point in which that becomes viable. So you could work it out, you know.
I think we've all been sitting quietly waiting, checking this, waiting for these to come back.
Takeaway here is that fees taken in Icosa or Hedron, they are directly burned, and then fees taken in Hex are used to buy and burn Icosa through the LP pool. Buy and burn Icosa through the LP pool. Dude, you know what? That actually ties into... Okay, so fees taken in Icosa or Hedron are directly burned. So just to clarify, there is a marketplace. This marketplace, you can buy HMIs or Watsas, and users, they have the opportunity to list them for Icosa, Hex, or Hedron. So there's going to be 3 currencies that you can spend in order to acquire HMIs and Watsas on the marketplace. And when you buy, there's going to be a marketplace fee, and that fee, if it's taken in Icosa or Hedron, then those that fee will get just burned out of existence. And actually, it's an interesting concept because that Hedron burned from the marketplace would probably also affect the global Hedron burned and increase the Icosa yield payment to Icosa stakers. Correct? Like that would make logical sense.
Yeah.
So and then we have an addition here. It says fees and Hex are used to buy and burn Icosa through the LP pool, and usually there are some mechanics like this, but they function through a protocol owned liquidity, the same concept that we were playing with earlier. So overall, we have leverage borrow. Fees goes to Icosa stakers. We have bit fees, 0.369%. Those fees goes to Icosa stakers. We have the marketplace. So we have a marketplace that increases both the yield payout because of the Hedron and Icosa burned, but it also makes Icosa more scarce if you're paying with Icosa to buy hex stakes, because that's what you will be able to do, right? Currently, you can't use Icosa to buy hex stakes, but in the marketplace that will come out, you can actually earn yield in Icosa while you're staked, and then you can, when you end your stake, you will have liquid Icosa, and then you can make a choice. What are you going to do with it? Like now, there's going to be a use for it. You can go to the open market and you can buy Watsas NFTs, and you're going to be able to actually buy HMI stakes. So it creates a new dynamic for what you can do with your Icosa yield. The fees and Hex. If you use Hex to buy anything, those fees will be used to to buy and burn Icosa through the pool. Okay. Fee amounts are not public at this time. They are, however, related to Hedron borrow fees. Okay. So the marketplace fees are related to Hedron borrow fees, which were how much? No, what? Hedron borrow fee.
Well, they're changing, right? Because in V2, they're changing. The way it is now is based on the hex share rate at the time you take, or like 3 days. But at the time you take a borrow, it looks what the hex share rate is. It works out a share interest rate for you. And so, but now there's fees with an amortizer. I've never been able to say this word.
Amortization. Amortization
disclosure.
period. Okay, so the fee amounts are not public at this time. They are, however, related to Hedron borrow fees. Okay, that's cool. And then we have, in addition to that, is gas fees are as low as possible due to the integration directly in the main protocol. So we have improvements all across the board. And then on top of that, we have, like, you know, these minute things that people usually don't notice, but they are effective because it will lower overall gas fees on the protocol, both on Ethereum and on Pulsechain, of course. And with time, the Pulsechain fees are also going to get more expensive, right? So right now it's minuscule though. But okay, so we have some notes here. Again, not an airdrop. If you want to upgrade, you execute code by yourself. You know, basically the no expectation disclaimer here. You have to perform that action. Same goes with upgrading stakes, Watsas, or HSIs. You must do the work. And then we have this this period, which is pretty interesting. I think that there will be inherent changes made to this, but it says here liquid coins can be migrated for 30 days after launch, and after 30 days the redemption rate is cut in half. So if we are to have some sort of penalty if you're not fast enough to react and migrate into the new system, you can see here it says, again, I'm going to read it, liquid coins can be migrated for 30 days after launch, and after 30 days the redemption rate is cut in half, and after 60 days it's going to be cut in half as well again. So this seems like a very aggressive curve that, you know, it punishes people if they're too late. I don't know how I feel about this, because I think there was a couple of people, they made at the point, what if you just made a stake or you have some liquid coins and you went to India for 2 years to find yourself or whatever the hell you're doing, right? And then you come back and then suddenly you don't have the stake anymore, or your coins, they're like worthless. So I don't know how I feel about this specific change, but I also like the fact, on the other hand, that there is an aggressive curve that would, you know, heavily incentivize people to act fast, because it is important. Even though there is this underlying understanding that you're not forced to do something, we actually do want people to come to the new system and participate, because we've never had a bull run in Icosa and Hedron, and the last time we had auctions, we had to, you know, pay high gas fees. Now we have Pulsechain, so it's going to be a really flourishing system. And Icosa Hedron, as a general concept, is almost like, you know, it's destined for Pulsechain. So it's going to be really fun to see how, you know, how this concept comes to life. But yeah, I definitely want as many people into the new system as fast as possible. So we'll see. I guess that is subject to change. So what else do we have? Icosa and Hedron stakes can be migrated. Exact details will come later. Watsa can be migrated at any time. Very interesting. Definitely. Old liquid coins migrated to the system are locked into the contract forever. Is that the thing that you were pointing out, Wardog? Okay, so what was your...
Well, I mean, you know, you get dumped on. That's kind of what will happen. You know, you put all your tokens in, you'll just sit there and you'll get new tokens and stuff. Yeah, that'll be nice.
No, I don't understand. You have to be more specific. What do you mean you get dumped on?
If you have all your tokens and then you take them to the new system and they're locked in there forever, you can't sell them. So then you just sit there and watch that bag get dumped on.
No, I think you're misunderstanding this point. Let's read it out again. Old liquid coins migrated to this system are locked into the contract forever. What this means is that your old coins that you give up in order to receive the new coins, those old coins that are locked in a renounced contract, as I understand, and they will never be... Yes, it's the old ones. Like you put in the old ones, they will be locked forever, because you can't have, you know, people claiming multiple times. Obviously, the 1-to-1 trading ratio for the liquid coins, it has to be this way. There is no other way. This is the only way that you can get them off the market and never to be accessed again, you know. So don't worry about that.
Now. Yeah, I don't see it as negative now.
Yeah. And then on the other side, you will obviously receive the liquid coins that you can play around with instantly. I don't think there's going to be any time penalty on that.
Okay, that's good.
Okay,
yeah,
so
you were thinking they were your coins, like, yeah, they're the coins you give up, they're not yours anymore. But yeah, you were thinking my coins are going to be locked forever. Is that what you thought? Like,
they're like the old ones. I mean, it kind of makes sense, you know, because you're making a new contract. I want everyone to have a shitload of tokens to dump everywhere, but that wouldn't make any sense to do that.
I don't get the dump part, though. I still don't get the dump part.
Yeah, it's okay. It's a non-issue, because there was just a confusion in the interpretation.
Yeah, no,
okay, so there are poly considerations. Poly should be able to Poly should be able to be migrated to Hedron at a 1-to-1, 1.1 rate, which is actually an interesting point. Like I haven't explored this option, but people should probably see what the Poly cost is right now on the open market, because if the cost is less than Hedron, you could possibly buy Poly instead of buying Hedron, and then because in Hedron you're going to get a 1-for-1 instead of buying Hedron and getting a 1-to-1 rate. You can buy Poly if it's under, if it's the same price as Hedron, and then you would get, for each Poly you would get 1.1 Hedron, so you would get more Hedron at the end.
Yeah, and a bit of Icosa to say,
Interesting little
help
thing. I mean,
help
people
this
can
mix
go
team a
explore
bit
that.
better. Yeah.
Okay, so Maxi and friends consideration, airdrop of Hedron should be given to these guys, perhaps through team. Don't know what that means. All of this is subject to change, or perhaps it never happens. However, code is more or less complete. This is a very interesting point. So this was what? Let's see the date. August 11th. How many months is that? Somebody good at math. What is that? 5 months, 6 months, whatever, however long it is. Back then, Alex said everything is subject to change, but he did say that the code is more or less complete.